Hi, my name is Bailey Hawkins, and I'm recording this presentation for LITE 527. This PD presentation is going to be over the integration of literacy strategies. So let's get started. Um, Before I flip to the next slide, I do want to let everyone know that I am a third grade teacher at Warren Elementary, and most of these strategies or the information is going to be based around elementary students and can be used in other grades, but I'm going to talk personally about my experience with third grade. Okay. I chose this slide from Dr. Seuss, or this quote from Dr. Seuss, because I have always really enjoyed his work as a child in my teaching. And the quote just simply says, the more that you read, the more things you will know. The more you learn, the more places you'll go. And that I kind of preach that to my students of like, it doesn't matter what you read as long as you're reading. As long as you're reading, you're learning, and the more you're reading, the more places you're going, you're getting to see, whether that be in fiction or nonfiction or whatever my students choose to read. So before I get into the strategies I've chose to share, I do want to talk about what literacy strategies are. Literacy strategies are used in a variety of ways by readers to make use or make sense of the text they are reading. Effective readers use these strategies to show they understand or comprehending what they are reading. Um, and I always preach that to my students of, yeah, you can be reading and it's good that you're just reading, but I want to make sure that you're comprehending and you're understanding what you're reading. And some of these strategies are going to help students to make connections, visualize text, infer and make predictions, and ask and answer questions. Excuse me. Okay. Why should literacy strategies be used in the library? All four strategies that I'm going to talk about can be used in the library and be used in the classroom, but mostly, well, I'll be talking about the library. Um, in our text, it states that the library is the key to a learning program curriculum of a school. I think the library is a great tool to use for any person in a school building, whether that be administrators or teachers or students. And I think that is a great place where you can go to get information on curriculum or get resources to help you teach your lessons, or resources that students can reach out to use after learning about something in class. When literacy strategies are used in both the library and classroom, this reinforces these literacy skills. So whether that be in the classroom, in library, in math class, reading class, writing, PE, if you're using the same strategies all across the board, that's going to reinforce those skills, and your students are only going to get better and advance in those literacy skills. Librarians know the importance of reading and can provide a wide range of resources to students, whether that be text or electronic. Librarians can provide a wide range of resources. And then finally, librarians can also create an effective space dedicated to reading and promoting the use of literacy strategies in that space. So the library is wholeheartedly all about, I feel, reading and promoting reading. So if the librarian has created a effective space all about reading, that's going to be a space that students are going to use literacy strategies in. Okay, so the four strategies I picked, or the ways you can integrate literacy strategies into both the classroom and the library, are going to be book talks, literacy circle or literature circles, audiobooks, and book clubs. Okay, the first one I'm going to discuss is book talks. According to our textbook, talks are one of the most fun and effective ways of persuading kids to read, and that's bond. And I do agree. I think book talks are a great way to get students just reading and guiding other students to read. A book talk is a short presentation about a book with the goal of convincing other people to read that book. So it's going to be like a short summary, and you can kind of tailor it to whatever you are wanting to see in that book talk, whether that be prompting questions for your students to answer, or just telling them, hey, go summarize this book you've read so I can put it in a book talk library for other students to view and get book recommendations for. And then, like I said before, this can be a fun and easy way to get your students engaged in reading and have them show their knowledge and comprehension of a story they have recently read. So, whether that be a story that you have read in class or a story they have read from the classroom library, or this could even be on a bigger scale, like the librarian um, creating a book talk library for students who are wanting recommendations for new books. She could have students that had read those books do book talks, put them into a virtual library, and then if students are looking for a good book to read, they can always reference back to the book talks library and find a great book that was been recommended by one of their peers. And then this is a great video, and this is a kid. He is doing a book talk on the book Wonder. He summarizes and kind of gives point of views of, he talks about the point of views in the books. He gives some of the great things that he likes in the books, and he talks about the things that he likes and the things that he doesn't like. And then that will be linked for you to view when you go back and listen to this PD. Okay, so the next strategy I've picked are literature circles. These are great tools to use if you are doing like enrichment groups or if you're just doing them in your classroom, and then again in the library as well. Literature circles are small groups of students gathered together to discuss a piece of literature in depth that guides students to a deeper understanding as they discuss what they have read with other students. Literature circles are, when they're in the literature circle, roles can be assigned to students in the literature circle to ensure that all students are engaged in the discussion and in the reading. So, roles can vary depending on what you want to see out of your students and what you want to see your students doing. But just some examples of roles that can be given to students are a discussion leader. A discussion leader is going to be somebody who maybe you want to see step up as a leader, or can be a leader and can make sure that students are staying on track, they're not getting off task, they're not falling behind. Maybe they're a timekeeper, or maybe a timekeeper could be a different job that you give. But that discussion leader is just going to be somebody who's keeping everybody accountable and keeping them in line on what they're supposed to be doing. Another job is a recorder. So the recorder might be in charge of recording in their information that the group wants to write down. Maybe you've given the students a graphic organizer to fill out, so that's the recorder's sole job, is just listening to their group and recording and writing what their group wants them to write down. The investigator, that was one of the jobs that was given as an example in our textbook. The investigator is going to be somebody who is reading along, and then if the group comes across an unknown word or a concept that they don't understand, they can turn to the investigator. The investigator can go research that term or topic, whether that be an unknown word, so they're looking it up in the dictionary, or like a broad topic or a place that they can get on the internet and look up and research and come back to the group and report what they found. Another great job that I saw given out in literature circles was a predictor. So this is going to be somebody who might prompt their group to say, okay guys, what do we think is going to happen next? They're making predictions, they're recording their group's predictions, and then once the prediction has been come to fruition in the book, they can go back and say, okay guys, was our prediction correct, was it not correct? And then they kind of repeat their job however they see fit, or however you see fit, in giving the student that role. And there's a lot more that I've read. Maybe they're the supplies person, so they're just making sure everybody has a book, or they are a popcorn reader, so their sole job is to read, or maybe they're the head reader. There's all kinds of jobs that you can give out in a literacy circle that you can go out and find on the internet. Okay, so this slide is all about the do's and don'ts of literature circles. So when I was doing all my research, I found that there are a lot of do's and there are a lot of there are a lot of don'ts that are done, um, that are said not to do, or how people have kind of gotten to the do's and the don'ts are, this is what I've done and it didn't work, so I have gotten more on the do side of what works best for my literature circle. So, um, some of the do's are that your literature circles are always going to be student centered, not teacher centered. The next do is going to be it's formed by student book choice. So whatever the students want to read, whatever they are looking forward to reading, not the groups aren't going to be formed by a teachers assigning them, and it's not going to be based on reading ability. It's going to be based on what the student chooses to read. Another do is that the literature circle is focused on student independence and responsibility. So students are going to be responsible for how far they get in the book that day, or it's going to be more of an independent practice where they are asking the questions and they are having the discussions. It's not a teacher-led discussion. It's not teachers asking questions and students answering. It's students asking students questions and students answering students questions, and that's how the discussion is proceeding. Again, guided by student responses and questions, and then literature circles are going to be flexible and fluid. So the conversation is going to progress. It's not going to be like, okay, we've answered this question, we need to go on to this question. If students want to spend longer on a topic talking about one thing, they can. It's flexible. It's not going along a pacing guide. Okay, and then these are some great books for literature circles that over my research I found, mostly on the website Goodreads. I get a lot of my book recommendations from there. Some of these include The Giver, Bridge to Terabithia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The whole series of those books were great that I read for literature circles. Charlotte's Web, um, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, really any Roald Dahl books are good. And then the Alice in Wonderland series is really good too. Okay, this is a literacy strategy that I use in my classroom a lot. Audiobooks are great, especially for EL learners, and that is what I typically teach too. Audiobooks are recordings of a book or another type of book or another type of work that is being read aloud. Audiobooks are a great resource for any grade, whether that be kindergarten, third grade, sixth grade, middle school, high school, and even in college. I know a lot of adults now do audiobooks, so it's great for any age all across the board. Audiobooks help with comprehension, motivation, and self confidence in reading. I know that self confidence is a big thing with a lot of my EL learners just because they're not as confident in their read aloud skills. They might be embarrassed by their voice or how maybe they're a little bit slower than another student. Um, so that is really going to help with self confidence and motivation with reading aloud. And then audiobooks can be used as incentives. My students love audiobooks, and in the next slide on the resource I'm going to give you, my kids love it. They ask me to get on this website all the time. So I use it as incentives a lot. And then audiobooks can be used as to differentiate between different students. So if you have a group of 25 kids like I do, and their reading levels are all over the place, I can easily assign an audiobook based on their level and then quiz them and see their comprehension skills. So it's not just centered around one reading level. Okay, and this is the resource I was talking about. Epic Books is a great audio book resource. It also has not only audiobooks, but it's got videos and it's got chapter books that aren't read aloud. So if those higher reading level kids want to get on Epic, they can and read through all kinds of books. Epic is a free resource that helps students and kids to access digital books anywhere. So at any time, my kids can get on Epic when they're at home. If they're like a kids club or if they're in the library, this is accessible everywhere. And then when I was researching, 91% of all U.S. elementary schools use Epic in their classrooms. So you can see that it is a huge resource in all classrooms. I mean, there's science on there and math and social studies. I mean, it's got all resources. It's not just specifically for reading. Okay, and my last resource, my last reading. Okay, and then here's my works cited page. Most of my information came from our 2 textbooks from this class, and yeah, that's where I got all my information from. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment on my discussion board, and if not, thanks for listening. Bye.